I truly believe we can be championship relevant in the sense of we're probably not going to be the favorite in any conversation, but that we have a team that's capable of achieving, that level again, knowing all that we've been through over the last, 13 years and those 4 trophies over there. So to add to that would be amazing. I think it's realistic to build towards that. I think for me, that's literally the only thing I'm playing for at this point.
Getting into his early 20s.
Yeah. So also on this list, the 2 LA teams, but the Lakers clearly, set up around 26-year-old Luka Doncic. Is he 27 or 26?
He turns 27 in February, 26.
Okay, so he's 26 now. Obviously, especially with the comments that Rob Pelinka made, around signing him, rightfully so. But then they've got this team this year with 41-year-old LeBron, who is coming off of a All-NBA season.
I was going to say a 41-year-old All-NBA.
Right.
LeBron James.
But you wrote in here, Bontemps, about the Austin Reaves situation. And Austin Reaves is sort of straddling the timelines here because he definitely was a player who thrived, maybe not always with LeBron on the court, but certainly with the LeBron formatted team. That when they went to the conference finals, Austin Reaves was a big role in that, and he remains a big role in the team. But he's lined more in age with Luka, and he's going into the final year of his contract. He's got an opt-out after this year, which he's almost certainly going to take. And you talked in here about what a contract for him might look like. And so here's my question to you, Bontemps. And this may be a question the Lakers have to answer. Which timeline is Austin Reaves in? Not necessarily with his age, but does he represent, because they're going to have to make a decision here. They're going to have to make a decision about whether they're going to pay Austin Reaves. You quote league executives here saying this guy's getting over $30 million a year. I don't disagree. The Austin Reaves portion of this is an interesting thing that's going to develop over this next 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, to be clear, that was in a story I did with Bobby Marks and
about the Lakers. That's right.
David Venneman about the Lakers. It also ran on Wednesday. But yeah, no, look, I think the Austin Reaves, there's been a lot of talk about what is going to happen with LeBron James when he becomes a free agent next summer. But I think there's 2 very fascinating potential free agents in Los Angeles, because we've talked about Austin Reaves before. He's right now on a deal that is below market for him. He's making, in the final year of his deal this year, $13.9 million. He's got a player option for $14.8 million. He will not be playing on that player option next year. He will be a free agent. And he will be looking for a very big payday. I don't remember if you said the number when you were running through that or not, but I talked to a few people around the league gauging what his market would be, and the belief is $30 million a year or more. And if you're paying Austin Reaves,
he probably wants or more. He's probably looking for the or more side of that.
I feel like I could say with pretty good clarity that he would think more than that. And look, you can make an argument that LeBron and Austin will be the 2 best free agents on the market next summer. There's a debate about.
Well, it depends on whether Trae Young or Kevin Durant extend.
Well, but I mean, look, he's in his, and he's going to be 28 years old, but he's a big guard. He's 6'5". There's, he could potentially be the lead guard on your offense for you. Like there are people who are big fans of Austin. That being said, if you look around the league, the combo guards who are one position defenders, which I would say Austin Reaves is one.
He defends a position.
Well, he's a shooting guard. He's like Tyler Hero. He's like Anthony Simons. He's like a lot of these guys who are very talented players who there has not been a great market for in terms of asset return and trades. And they're probably the most replaceable player type in the league. So is he good enough to be the Jalen Brunson or the Kyrie Irving next to Luka Doncic long term? If he is, I think the Lakers can feel comfortable giving him that kind of number and having those 2 guys be your creators going forward. If he's not, then I think it's a real question you have to ask yourself if you're the Lakers about, is that the right piece that you're going to build with him going forward? Because for all the talk about LeBron, whatever is going to happen with his future, the Austin Reaves question could be the one that has a much bigger bearing on the championship ceiling and window of the Lakers over the next few years, because you're not signing him to a 1 or 2 year deal. He's getting a long-term deal at a big number, and then you have him and Luka, and then you're building around him and Luka, assuming that he stays there. So that, I do think that subplot throughout the season is going to be very interesting to watch, particularly after he really struggled in the Minnesota series. And as you guys both know, for all the attention on the Lakers this year and all the focus on Luka's future and everything else, how Austin Reaves plays this season, and particularly assuming they get to the playoffs, how he plays in the playoffs is going to be an awfully interesting story to follow. And it's going to potentially have a big bearing on the Lakers next summer, and their seasons beyond that, depending on what they decide to do.
Yeah, he struggled against the Timberwolves. In his defense, he did have a really good playoff run when they went to the Western Conference Finals a couple of years ago. So, it's not like we've never seen this guy play well in the playoffs. You bring up Brunson, and some similarities here, some major differences. One being that at this time that summer, the Mavericks could have gotten Brunson locked up to a contract that would have averaged $14 million a year. But once it got past that point, once it got into January and Brunson gave him a last chance, and then he kept playing better, and it was like, oh, okay, hold on, I've outplayed that number. The Mavericks had a decision to make, and that was trade him before that deadline, get value for him, or take your chances of losing him for nothing that summer. And the Lakers are already on that. They're in that situation now where their options are either take a chance of losing Reaves for nothing next summer, or be willing to pay whatever it takes to keep him. They do have the advantage of, I'm sure Austin Reaves would love to continue playing for the Lakers. Or like if you don't want to pay what it's going to take to keep them, do you trade them midway through this season and try to get value?
You also have the Clippers on here. The Clippers, as is well known, have a whole bunch of guys in their mid to late 30s on their roster. They also have one guy on their roster right now who's under contract past next season. That's Ivica Zubac. After
past
that,
27 season, to be clear. You're saying
after next season. Oh, you're saying this? Yeah, yes.
After the 26-27 season.
Their future books are completely clear. And he's talking about two timelines. They got all these guys on this roster, from 34-year-old Kawhi to 40-year-old Chris Paul, and Brook Lopez is like 37, and Batum is like 37, 38, and John Collins is still in his 20s, I'm pretty sure, but James Harden is, I think, 36. So they got, this super veteran team now, but totally clean books, and they've worked, in their, they held the line a little bit with Kawhi on his extension. They've held the line on Harden's contracts. They've given him flexibility to opt out, but kept him short. When they acquired John Collins for Norm Powell, they did that to keep some flexibility in part. So they're sort of the epitome of two timelines, for sure. And then you've got the 76ers on here, Bontemps, and I don't think this is by plan. I think it's by reality of the health of their highest paid players. I'm not sure how those guys are going to hold up.
Yeah, they're a lot like Dallas. You've got a young top five. Obviously Cooper's a different level of prospect than VJ Edgecombe, but they got the third pick in the draft. They have VJ Edgecombe. They have Tyrese Maxey. They have Jared McCain. I thought getting Jabari Walker on a two-way this summer was nice. Like, they have some good and interesting young players on their roster. And then they've got Paul George and Joel Embiid, the two giant question marks in terms of their health, in terms of their ability to play at the level required for this team to be really good. And, that's why they fit in this group. You could put them in a couple of different buckets if you wanted to. They're another team that's hard to put somewhere. In Miami, just because
70% of the cap, by the way, with those two guys, George and Embiid.
And Miami, since we kind of glossed over them, they're another one of these teams that has a bunch of cap space in the next year or two and has an okay roster now. Obviously, they make the Norm Powell deal this summer, basically get him for free. They should be more of a factor in the East this year than they were the last couple of years. But, they've had some designs on trying to upgrade their roster money-wise, and they're going to have some money to spend in the next couple seasons too.
Well, an interesting thing for the Heat, do they extend Norman Powell? The same question that the Clippers had to deal with, and if do they extend Tyler Hero? And if they do, at what number? Which would, maybe clarify.
Both of those guys, I would say, fall into the same exact bucket that Austin Reaves is in also. Two more combo guards who are good players, where there's not a voluminous market for them in the trade market, which is why Norm Powell was acquired coming off the best year of his career by the Heat for Kyle Anderson, Kevin Love in a second.
Yeah, or there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. I do want to hit real quick, though, on the Rockets in that, because the Rockets, to me, are a fascinating they've created a fascinating situation. But I agree, I think they're as well positioned to have a long run as any franchise other than Oklahoma City, despite the fact that they just went all in. Or not, they didn't go all in, they just made a trade to get Kevin Durant, what's he going into, year 17, 18?
By the way, it's August 6th as we're recording this, and Kevin Durant does not have a contract extension.
So that's where I was headed.
Okay.
They did not go all in on the trade. They made a trade at a price that they were okay with, that did not sacrifice the long term. Jalen Green was a second-round pick that didn't really pan out. We talked when they made the trade. If you're ranking the young players on the roster by future value, by long-term value, he might have been 5th or 6th on that list. And then, they didn't really have like an immediate spot for the 10th overall pick in this year's draft. Hell, they couldn't squeeze the 3rd overall pick in last year's draft into the rotation. The Rockets aren't going to go all in, by all appearances, and by what I've heard, they're not going all in on an extension for Kevin Durant. Now, doesn't mean it won't happen, but there've been rumblings of, hey, KD doesn't, he's not going to push for the full max. I don't know that the Rockets are going to put anything on the table that's close to the max. I think the Rockets are, it's not ideal, but I don't think they would panic if they go into the season with Kevin Durant just on the contract that he's on, just on the expiring deal. So,
well, this is one of the things I talked about when Durant was on the market, about whether a team looked at Durant as would be comfortable with him on an expiring contract, or felt that they needed to give him a 2-year, $110 to $120 million extension, and that was going to affect what teams would pay for him. And as you said, and I'll say this: Rafael Stone, since he's been GM of the Rockets, he signed quite a few giant contracts, but most of them have been short. Like Jalen Green's contract was shorter, and Fred VanVleet has signed 2 short contracts. Even this contract they signed with Dorian Finney-Smith, it's only 2 years guaranteed.
The Şengün was well south of max.
Well, and the 2 long contracts he's given out, which are Alperen Şengün and Jabari Smith Jr., were both contracts that, now we'll see everybody's health goes and everything, were 2 contracts that the league viewed as good value contracts.
Yeah.
Yes. Rafael Stone has done an outstanding job, and the Rockets as a whole have done an outstanding job of understanding the new economic environment the league is in. And we've talked about it a lot. Teams have to be much better about negotiating every dollar on deals. And you look at what the Rockets have done, they have done a great job. Frankly, the only deal that wasn't like that was the Jalen Green deal, which they got to get out of jail free card on the Kevin Durant trade. But all these other trades that they've done, or all these other deals that they've done, you keep talking about percentage of the cap, Brian. Alperen Şengün is 18% of the cap. He just made an all-star team last year. Fred VanVleet, 16% of the cap. Jabari Smith Jr., his contract starts out, his extension, under 15% of the cap and goes down from there every year.